we said this the other day on a different episode, but the world's never going to be slower than it is right now. And
Yeah.
so things keep changing. There's all kinds of technology that's, constantly coming into the marketplace and changing business models, everything. There are, all the things that are going on in society, right? And the issues and how we talk about those issues. There's just lots going on. As a marketer, how do you think about, kind of the top three trends or things that are influencing how you're developing strategy?
There's a lot, right? And so we've mentioned one of the words quite a bit, which is community, right? And so how do you create a community around your brand? How do you foster that? How do you listen to it? How do you engage with it? So I think community, the vehicles by which you do it have changed quite a bit, right? This brand started with George Stephen literally putting a grill in his trunk and driving store to store, house to house kind of thing. Like, that's a little inefficient to do that today.
But that's Phil Knight at Nike too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. If you read Shoe Dog or Air, this is where they started, right? The tools by which we create and foster and engage with community have changed and will continue to change, but the importance of community has not. And so we're constantly trying to figure out that tension there of how do we achieve that as the tools that we use to do it evolve. So I would say that that's one major trend, is the tools themselves. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what is the metaverse, what impact does that have on brands and business and all that. I was literally in a meeting this week where we were talking about that, and I had to raise my hand and say, all right, I'm going to out myself. I don't understand enough about what we're talking about right now. Like, help me understand this better. What impact does that have on how we're doing this? What door does it open if we embrace it, and how do we embrace it? And so I'm the first to, raise my hand and say, I'm behind. I don't know enough about this. Help educate me. So I would say that's one. And then, just the one that I think very much affects marketers as well is content at this point, right? So where does it come from? How does it get created? How is it shared? Who creates it? On behalf of what? We're constantly thinking about that content creation ecosystem. The days of, the brand working with just one agency, creating everything they need for the year at one time, like that is a foregone era, right? And so, every single day we have to have something new to present to the consumer about our brand, about the community, about the experience of grilling. And so there's no way our team alone can do that. And so we're constantly challenging ourselves to think about, where does that content come from? What voice is it? How do we maintain a consistency across all of that in some way, so it all feels like it's coming from Weber, even though it might be created by 100 different people in 50 different ways. And so the content creation and deployment process, I think, is something that's changing rapidly. It's much different today than it was a year ago, and not even comparable to 5 years ago.
I think one of the things that's interesting, just on content with your all's brand, and you used an expression with me the other week, I can't remember, but it was very fun. It's cool. Was the kind of the pre-sale communication, maybe point of sale communication, and then I think in your all's case, very importantly, the post-sale communication, because that's actually really when the relationship really goes deep as compared to buying toothpaste or shampoo.
Absolutely.
And just how you guys continue the engagement with the consumer after the point of purchase.
Yeah, I have to give credit to Renee Mahoney, our group creative director. She mentioned to me a few weeks ago, our ultimate role, and she was talking about creative, but I think it's the role of the brand, is how do we help consumers to choose and use the Weber brand?
Choose and use,
right? And so when she said that, it was another one of those where, like, where's the pen? I need to write that down. I just thought that was so simple, but so powerful, right? Where our role is to help a consumer. I mean, our business relies upon us helping a consumer to choose the Weber brand and choose a Weber product, right? That's a big part of the marketing team's goal. But we sell products that last for 7 years, 10 years, 20 years, right? Our job is nowhere near done when the transaction is complete to buy that product. And so we need to care for them. We need to support them. We need to inspire them. We need to give them the tools, whether that's physical tools or recipes or grill skills. Like all of those things help them to keep grilling very, central in what they're doing to foster that community, to make great food for the family, all of those things. And so I think it's different than maybe some other industries that I've worked in where to a degree, the relationship ends at the transaction. I think for us that maybe 80% of the relationship still exists after they check out and buy the product.
Well, as a terrible griller, at least left to my own devices, like the app, the videos, stuff like that is extremely helpful to me because Weber's typically not the least expensive one that I could have bought. But at the same time, it's like, okay, now that I bought this, like, help me to use it properly so that I have, like, my wife doesn't complain about what I grill. That's reversing 30 years of history. That's a big deal.
We're happy to play a role in that, Bob.
But even stuff like, and I'm being super personal here, but like grilling fish is very different than grilling a steak. How do I do that and not mess it? Because I'm trying to eat better.
Sure.
Right. And so I want, fish to be a more consistent part of my diet. I love grilling. Okay, now help me do it without completely messing all this up. And you guys help me do that. So it's like, it keeps reinforcing I made a good decision by, engaging with the brand.
Yeah. I'm not here to hawk product by any means, but the Connect app, I've been really impressed having joined Weber, 2 or 3 years ago, and a lot of that was in place, and I'm learning every day more and more what it does and what it can do for the consumer. We kind of jokingly refer to it as, okay, you've got a grill master in your pocket, right, and on your phone now, because it can teach you the basics of just how to set your grill up for success, all the way through to, and if you're trying to perfect brisket, which is a really long task, and there's a lot of things that can go right and wrong during the process. Teaching you to do that, giving you the all the temperature readings that you need, telling that it literally alerts you to when you need to do something out at the grill. All those tools help folks move from novice to beginner to novice to we're feeling better about this, and all the way to the expert level.
So I want to make sure we touch on one thing. I'd feel remiss if we didn't touch on this, particularly with a world-class marketer, is, in the news, there's been some fairly big, what ultimately have been viewed as faux pas by some brands. Yeah. And these are big brands that would claim community and things like that. And yet, whether it's Bud Light or Target, or we could pick other ones that have really, apparently stepped in it. As a marketer, how do you navigate that and when to lean in and when to that's not our thing, that's not part of our brand? How do you think about that stuff?
We think about it a lot, right? And this is one area where I think we do need a community internally as well to help guide us. I mentioned as we decentralize, we now have a global brand council that is the marketing leaders from all of our top countries, as well as a couple other folks. And so that group, we talk about this topic very often, right? But one of the things that has to be true in any of these areas where, people are stepping in it, unfortunately, is, are they genuine in their point of view, in their activity, in their statement, in their support? And we've struggled with that, frankly, right? There needs to be, if you go back a few years in sustainability, there was greenwashing, right? And now there's anything washing, right? Any topic is, if you're going to put the brand out there in favor or against something, or even just kind of, putting your position out there has to be substance behind that position. Yes. You can't just pretend to have a point of view. There needs to be something behind it. And we're still trying to figure that out, frankly. I think we have a really smart, well-meaning group of folks internally where we talk about these things and, okay, this happened out in the world. Are we going to comment on it? Are we not? Is it our place? What does this mean for our values? We've not figured it out. Not a lot of brands have. And it's an ongoing, literally daily, weekly conversation as, a group of marketing leaders, communications leaders on how should we approach this. HR is very much a part of the conversation as well. How are our own employees going to feel? It's not just the reaction from outside the building. It's how do people feel internally as well about a given topic, about the brand's role in that topic.
Yeah. So really, really interesting. So we recently spoke with MasterCard's CMO, Raja Rajmanar, who really, really great. And kind of the same question. And your answer, I believe in a lot of ways echoes what he was saying. Like, it's got to be authentic. It's got to be grounded in conviction. Some of these brands are being opportunistic and sort of jumping on whatever the social activism topic of the day is, and doing it in a disingenuous way, and certainly one that would indicate that they don't understand their own community. Right.
Agree.
And then come to regret it, and then they're like trying to flip it and go in the other direction real fast. And you can see it's like you guys don't even know what you believe. The other thing that you just brought up, and thank you for doing it, is the relationship that marketers have with HR. So obviously Career Club, because we're working a lot with companies in talent acquisition, or whether they're having to let go of folks or whatever, is how does the brand reinforce what it's like to work here? And how do we attract talent, and how do we retain talent? Because your audience isn't just outside your four walls, it's also in your four walls.
Absolutely. Yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking, HR is largely responsible for creating the culture inside the building. And in a way, marketing's responsibility is to project that culture to the world.
Yes.
Right. And so we've been through, I mentioned earlier, a lot of brand purpose work and things like that lately. And the conversation's been just as much about how do we live that inside the four walls as it is about what does that look like for our consumer. And so, HR is an invaluable partner to marketing.
Yeah. So maybe kind of moving on to the career part of our conversation, because I know this is something that we're both passionate about.
Yeah.
As you think about 28-year-old Kyle, and with the benefit of hindsight, what advice would you give 28-year-old Kyle, or as you start to think about having conversations with Madeline on another day?
28-year-old Kyle thought he had it all figured out, and he did not. We talked a little bit about passion earlier, right? Of following passion. Every minute I stayed at P&G, I learned something new, and so I don't regret any moment that I spent at P&G. The 13 years were fantastic. I think I would have just tried to find that mix between passion and profession even earlier, perhaps. I was 35 years old when I left P&G to go to Louisville Slugger. And I always kind of wonder, like, what would it have looked like at 28 or 30 had I figured out what I figured out at 34, 35? And so I think that's one piece of, don't be shy about trying to match passion with profession. It is possible, right? And that doesn't mean you have to leave the company that you're at. There could be a ton of opportunities inside the building, right? I mean, P&G's, if I follow the sports example for a moment, P&G's built a great corporate marketing group that has worked on the Olympics and a number of other things that they've done. The Thank You Moms campaign from P&G tied to the Olympics, I think, is some of the best marketing in the world over the last 2 decades. And so there is a way where you are or other places to match passion with profession. A lot of that comes through mentorship, of just having people who have done it before you help you work through that process a little bit, even helping you define what your passion is. You may know how you want to spend your time outside the office, but how do you apply that to the professional world? So I would say one thing to 28-year-old would be, see if you could figure that out a little bit sooner, and whether that happened at P&G or elsewhere, pursue it. I think one of the things I found when I mentioned being a free agent after, during COVID, I think I thought about networking as a tool when I needed it versus an always on, always building kind of thing, right? And this is advice to 43-year-old Kyle, not even 28-year-old Kyle, right? How do I think about networking as an everyday, every month, every year kind of thing? not as a vehicle to help me only when I need it. Right. And so I think in a lot of my career, I've helped where I've been asked, but maybe I didn't proactively go out and ask, well, how can I help? Right. And vice versa. I wish I had done more of staying in touch with certain folks, and built some of those. I have, a great network of friends and mentors and all of that, but I think I probably could have been even more intentional and genuine about that, starting in my 20s through to where I am today. What was one more? A third that came to mind for me is at P&G. One of the incredible benefits at P&G is, if there's a new marketing trend or a new technology or something like that, there were these central groups that kind of figured out what that meant to P&G and what that meant to brand management and marketing. And we'd have quarterly, semi-annual, whatever it was, trainings on, hey, there's this new marketing trend and here's how you apply it to your brand. And I think I actually got a little lazy late in my P&G career because I didn't have to go figure that stuff out for myself. Somebody gave me a template and said, here's social media is now a big thing, right? And, while I was at P&G, and here's how you should apply it to your brand. I didn't have to go learn why or how. I just had to, more or less, there was a template and you filled it out and you went and did it, right? And so when I went to Louisville Slugger and went from this huge infrastructure at P&G to, oh no, I have to do that now, right? I started calling agency friends of mine and said, how do I get plugged in? There's a curiosity that had dulled, I think, a little bit in me because it was served to me. And so I had to kind of rebuild that muscle a little bit. And so I think, again, going back to 28, I wish I had stayed a little bit more curious and asked the why behind some of those things and learned to do it myself, frankly, right? So there's a lot of things I have a good sense of how to lead the strategy or the thinking on something, but I definitely don't know how to do it. And so I wish that would have been more of a focus of mine earlier in my career.
Yeah, so really great points that you're making. One thing that I do want to pick up on, because it's so in my DNA, is the networking piece. I mean, community, everything is about relationships at the end of the day, right? Whether we're talking mentors, whatever. I mean, it's all about relationships, your team.
Yeah.
And networking is something that is really misunderstood by people. And it's the analogy I always use is an ATM and oh crap, I'm out of a job. I need to go to the relationship ATM to make a withdrawal.
Yeah.
And it's guess what, dude? You haven't been making any deposits. And you're going to get a message back from the ATM going, wah, wah. Sorry, there's nothing there for you. So you're a little bit hosed versus, as you say, it's this always on thing. The other thing that you said, Kyle, and I really appreciate it and want to just amplify it for half of a second, is asking how you can help the other person. This is how to be a net giver, not a net taker in relationships. And I think we talked about this before, but sowing and reaping is a real thing. And I think networking gets a bad rap because people have a misconception that it's manipulative. I'm trying to get something out of you and I'm being selfish and all these kind of bad motivations that people don't want to associate with themselves. So they're networking. And it's no, this is sowing and reaping. If you continue to give and help and be available, and I love your word, intentional with your network, the natural outcome of that is it bears fruit. It just does. And that's a good thing. And do I get to pick fruit sometimes? Yeah, because you do. You just get to. Yeah. And sometimes you're the one who's helping somebody and they're picking fruit. Sometimes you're the one that gets to pick fruit. But I really appreciate you highlighting networking and the notion of giving as being core to that, because that really is, barbecue, pun intended, but that's the secret sauce.
It is.
Networking is being a giver, not a taker.
Yeah. So. I think I was probably guilty at times in my career of, I had an agenda when I was networking versus the intentionality of just fostering relationships. Right. And I hope, I want to believe I've gotten better at it over the last few years, but there's always things I could be doing better in that space.
Yeah. So last question, or sort of a little bank of questions, is when you're building a team, when you're interviewing, whether you're a cross-functional panel interviewer or for your own team, what are some of the character qualities, the talent attributes that you're looking for in people, and why?
There's a lot. I would say I tend to look at almost more the soft skills, the cultural stuff, as much or more than the hard skills, right? At some degree, if they've, if HR has screened them and they've gotten to, a couple steps down the road in the process, the odds are their resume, they have the skill set, the hard skills to do the job. And so I certainly probe and ask about that, but I'm more focused on, is this person a fit with what we're trying to do? Is this a person a fit with how we want to do it? So I just wrote down a couple of words, because you had kind of teased this question a little bit in advance, and I did write down curious, right? So if we go back to the 28-year-old, question, like, who's hungry? Who's curious? When we ask, like, hey, I don't think anybody's ever done this before, we need to figure this out. Like, I love that person that's willing to raise their hand and go, I'll go figure that out. Right. And so there's this willingness to step in. I like in interviews actually asking people, like, giving them a business situation and hey, there's not a right or wrong here. I'm just going to give you a context and ask you what you would do. And again, that's not about them giving me back the right answer, because I may not know the right answer, but I want to just see them think and react. I want to see what information would you need in order to make a decision here, and who would you talk to about that to try to kind of develop a point of view on it. I want to hear how they're going to work through that, because that gives me an inkling into how are they going to engage in the environment, around the office. Are they going to seek input and expertise where they may not have it, right? I want to know that piece. Empathy is, if anybody I come in contact with that knows me well would say empathy is like a really, really big deal to me. Can you put yourself in somebody else's shoes? Can you appreciate what they're going through? Particularly whether it's, in good work environments or bad, businesses that are, clicking on all cylinders, and those that are facing challenges, empathy is so crucial. And then we talked about accountability, right? At the end of the day, you can tease out some of those things of, the questions asked in, I think, every interview ever done, but is like, tell me about a time when you faced a challenge, and how did you get around it, or what would you have done differently? The person that answers that and doesn't take accountability in that answer tells me a lot about who they are, right?
The marketing department, like we've had the product didn't work, my manager didn't support, and it was never me.
Yep. The never me answer, it could have been 100% true. So I'm not suggesting that it wasn't true, but it tells me a little bit about where their mind goes first, right? And again, I would like to think I might get through a battery of those questions. I may not either, right? But those are the things I'd love to see in potential candidates is, are you curious? Are you accountable? Are you empathetic? And can you think and react?
Those are great questions. Well, one thing I just want to pick up on really quickly for people who are listening right now is when we're teaching people how to tell a story, in an interview, and we use the STAR, method of which situation. Well, the T typically is what was the tasks, or what were the task, action, result, and we replace that T with how did you think about it. And it's for the exact reason that you just said, Kyle, which is at the end of the day, you're not hiring that person for that accomplishment over there. You're hiring them for their brain and how they think and how they problem solve, how they resource to go solve a problem. That's what you were at. And what we tell clients is that's the calculus that the interviewer is doing. So it's incumbent upon you to connect the dots in his or her mind of how you would think about the problem, because that's what they're really doing. Is they're projecting, we've got a similar problem. How would she solve that for us?
Yeah. Because the solution they came up with last time, there's a very high likelihood the same solution is not true for the next situation, right? But they need to be able to apply what they learned there and how they thought through it and went through it and arrive at the right answer. I actually start every interview with the same question. It's kind of a loaded 3-part question, but I ask, why this, why now, why you, which is why this role? Why are you interested in this role? What is it about it that this role, this company, et cetera? Why now? Why is now the right moment in your career, your life, your personal life, your journey that this role is right for you? And then why you? Why are you the right person for the role? And I find that just triggers a lot of conversation, but it also, very quickly I get to see them kind of think and on their feet of, oh, wait, I just got 3 questions. Let me kind of process through this.
So one of the things that we teach people is some emotional intelligence tools.
Yeah.
I love your focus on empathy related to that. But teaching people, particularly introverts, people that would skew more towards being humble, which is not something I suffer from, but sometimes, in all seriousness, it's hard for people to interview because they hold back because they feel like they're bragging, or sometimes they skip over like some really salient details, and because for them it's like, well, but I was just doing my job. Like this isn't worth unpacking, because for me I was just doing my job. And so actually teaching people how to answer, that's such a fabulous question. I'm writing that one down to help clients think about how to answer that question effectively. But it's, tell me about yourself, what was it? Why I got the
why this, why now, why you?
Yeah, why this, why now, why you? And but part of what you're getting at is how good of a communicator are they, and have they really thought about this stuff? And so, being prepared with what the pillars are. This is actually back to branding. Like, what are your brand pillars? What do you have conviction about? That you've got RTBs, if you will. What are the functional and emotional benefits of working with you? I think all of this, but a lot of this can be taught. And to really resonate in an interview and click with a really smart guy like you that's trying to build a world-class team, it's like you need to be able to answer questions like that. So, fabulous question. I love it.
And that, if I can expand on that just for 1 second, if you don't mind, is part of what I'm listening for in that as well. When I say why this, do they actually understand the role that they've applied for? Right? Do they, because sometimes, I just really like Weber, I really like grilling, right? Well, that's not really what the role is, right? So like, how do I make sure that they know what they're signing up for? Why now? Sometimes it's around like, is this person running away from something, or are they running to this role? Right. And then the third, why you? Can you connect yourself, storytelling, right? Can you connect yourself to the role, right? If why you doesn't connect back to why this, then there could be an incongruency there that we want to kind of just dig a little deeper and understand a little better.
How much are you willing to take a bet on somebody that's got a lot of these soft skills and might be lacking, in the full portfolio of hard skills that the ideal candidate has? But you know what? This young lady's got it going on. She is smart. She cares. I can see her being a great team member. We'll teach her the X part, or I know she'll learn the X part. Are you willing to make that bet?
Absolutely. I have made it many times in my career, and I think maybe a couple of people have made it on me. Right. I mean, there are certain roles, right, that a technical skill set, a particular expertise is just necessary, right? But by and large, I will bet on the person who is a culture fit over a skill fit every single day of the week. If I have to choose one or the other, it's a culture fit every time.
Well, I'm so happy to hear you say that. I hope people who are listening take that to heart, because it's true. And the skills can be taught. Some of these other attributes that you bring to the party, they're innate, and either you have them or you don't. And people can suss that out pretty quickly.
Yeah, totally agree.
Kyle, amazing. Thank you so much. I knew this was going to be a lot of fun. The marketing stuff is awesome. I wish you the best. You are working on one of my favorite brands. So, please let me know how I can help. But like so many of our just great guests, you really emphasize some things that I think that listeners can take away to better themselves in their career and find more fulfillment in their career and working on things that really give them genuine satisfaction, which is part of our brand promise, to have a career that matters to you. So thank you for everything that you shared. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I love talking about the Weber brand, of course, but anything I can do to share that helps others in their own journey. So many have done that for me. And so if I can pay that forward, I'm all in.
Awesome. Well, appreciate it very much. I will be thinking about you when I'm around my grill this weekend. So thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Hope you enjoyed that. And please subscribe either on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform for the next episode. Thank you. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Bob.
I know you're